Okay, so uh, I'll start from what we were talking about yesterday, the why machine learning has become popular over a period of time, and we will talk about few applications today. So why machine learning? As we know that it's not like, as I've told you earlier also, that it's not like we're doing machine learning in since last decade only. It has been there since last 40-50 years. Just that it was not implementable for a larger data set. Now, with the greater advances in computing, it has become possible to, and open source softwares, it has become possible to use machine learning at a wider scale. And it will help, it generally helps us in extracting information, and process the data uh, from larger data sets. For small data set, we can do it by hand also, and or in Excel also. But for large data sets, it becomes difficult with all these traditional ways. Okay. Now, what are the applications of machine learning? Where do we see the machine learning being used? So I would say, hardly any place is left where you can't use the machine learning anymore. So in business, for per se, we can say the data mining of the business data, like and the stocks data could be mined, because a lot of data is produced on daily basis on stocks, and the company data which you want to correlate with the indices of the stocks, or associations between the products brought by the clients or the consumer behavior you can trace. uh, that Twitter sentiment analysis could be done, that for a particular product, now this particular company X would want to know that how is our company doing in the market. Okay. And generally, this generation is very much vocal, maybe not in real sense, but on in virtual world, the generation is very much vocal. So the sentiment analysis could be done on Twitter. That, as you know, that elections are now fought on digital media more rather than on the actual grounds. So sentiment analysis is another, a big, uh, you can say, a kind of a breakthrough for many companies, where how is their product doing, or are there any grievances. So of course they can take some feedback and all, but then generally feedbacks and all, they don't work that nicely, or the feedbacks are generally either biased towards the negative side or the positive side. So generally, a consumer like you and me would generally go and talk about or give a feedback mostly when either I'm too much happy, or I'm having a serious grievance against a certain product or a company. Then I'm going to be vocal about it. When you are neutral, generally you would not say. Or if you are even happy, and if you go to certain restaurant, you like the restaurant and you've been going there, but you'll still be not that interested in giving the feedback. So, but then on Twitter, on Instagram, you are going to post all those things, and you're going to write nice things about that. But that is all informal. So with the help of machine learning, you can catch the sentiment of your business. So in business, it is used in that sense. Then entertainment, of course, the biggest example of entertainment is recommendation system. All of you know recommendation system. Yes. How many of you know recommendation system? Say yes if you know about the recommendations. What is the recommendation system? Netflix. Yes, yes, yeah. So we often see recommendations on YouTube. We see the recommendations on Netflix. We see the recommendations on our marketing habits. If you are purchasing things on Amazon or Flipkart, you are going to get some messages which are related to that. So how do they know that what you are interested in getting it? Or you even get advertisements. You are browsing some products, and then you start getting advertisements related to that. So how do they get to know? They do it by classification techniques. They see your browsing habits. They see your uh, they keep a track of our browsing. Yeah, exactly. So how do they do that? How do they know that, okay, this product could be shown to that? Okay, browsing history you have, they have 1,000 rows with whatever things you are doing online. Now they're going to identify that what is this, what could be the possibility that they'll make clusters. They'll make 5 10 different clusters. Okay, and then say, okay, certain movies there, um, on Netflix. So if you watch a certain movie, it would belong to certain genre, and it would belong to certain people. And using, as I've told you, that machine learning, the learning data is already there. So based on that, if this person X likes this movie, he probably is going to like other movies. They can associate probabilities with that. They can cluster, they can divide whole recommendation system into several clusters or different classes. And then if you have, and they'll find out which class do you belong to. And if you belong to certain class, then all the recommendations or all the videos or the movies they have for that class, they are going to pop up on your screen. Okay, so but it is faulty as well at times. For example, I was watching a kind of a serial other day, how to sell drugs online. Okay, so I was watching this thing. Now I started getting recommendation for another one, which was Breaking Bad. Now I'm not that interested in Breaking Bad, but I like that genre of how to sell drugs online. But I don't like Breaking Bad. So it's not like all the recommendations, whichever are coming, I would like those recommendations. Although they belong to certain genre, and people are like, uh, they also watch that some drug mafia movie. I mean, the series is there on Mexico based something. So that is also coming. So I am not interested in those kind of. So it's not like it is perfect. How do they improve that? So as more and more custom, I'm not going to watch that. So that is going to get registered in their database. So this guy watched this thing, and he did not watch the other two which was recommended. They, even the system is not asking. They will see another, this thing will keep on popping for another 10 15 days, but after that it will go. Okay, they'll either I belong to a different segment which has not been made yet, so I will be the center of that segment, and more people will get clustered around me. Okay, so this kind of system evolves. So the as more and more people keeps getting added in this kind of a recommendation system, it becomes more and more powerful. So you would see that the more you watch Netflix, the more, I mean, the recommendation system is supposed to be the strongest one for the Netflix. So the more you watch it, and the more people are associated with Netflix, the recommendation system keeps on getting stronger and stronger. Okay, now so this was about entertainment. Now we come to the another application, that is medicine. Now, does anyone know how cancer is detected? Does anyone know in the group how cancer is detected? I mean, I would appreciate if someone can be vocal and tell about it. It is why it is so difficult. Okay, first question one: why it is so difficult to diagnose a cancer? Anyone? Piyush, can you be vocal about it? Can you speak out?
As far as I am, my knowledge is concerned, recently I had read an article wherein there was some machine learning project wherein they basically tried to predict the malignancy in cancer by using some algorithm. So there they told that this particular cancer depends on many factors, like the size, the area, and they were like 15 to 20 factors, and I think that is one of the reasons why it is very difficult to detect it.
Okay. Yeah. So you're right, Piyush. So there are different kind of cells in body, and which depends on the size of the cells, and malignant and there's benign. There are two different classes. Means the cell could be cancerous or cell could not be cancerous, or tumors for that matter. So they do biopsy and take out the tissue from the body, and then they find out that by looking at the sizes and the color and few other parameters are there, they try to guess it. It's kind of a guesswork. Like sugar is there. If your sugar is above 120, I mean your glucose level or whatever is that, so if it is above 120, you are susceptible to diabetes. If it is lower than 120, you are not. So that kind of system is not there in cancer. Of course, there are many indicators, but largely it is to a greater extent guesswork. So with machine learning, the kind of database which is there, which replicates the knowledge of a doctor. Okay, like what is there with the doctor? What is so special about a doctor? Doctor has experience. Doctor knows that if with experience, I mean, there are certain professions which grows with time. Most of the professions, I would say, like why experienced people are preferred over an inexperienced, just because they have more data and they know more, they have handled more situations, so they are better decision makers. So similarly, the similar thing is with the doctors. So these kind of the doctors, they diagnose certain disease by looking at the pictures and all. So machine learning algorithms are developed where these parameters are captured, and then you predict whether a certain disease is there or not. So even on COVID also, like COVID affects lungs. So people have worked on the data captured, and then they have applied machine learning algorithms, and it has been successful to a certain extent. Other applications, software engineering, of course, uh, it's immaterial to talk about software engineering, so I would not spend time on that. Data and communication networks. So in the data and communication networks, you can find out the routing mechanisms, quality of the wireless sensor networks. They can work on that. In maintenance of the networks, if there is any anomaly, you can detect. Anomaly means that something different from the regular. Okay, so even either it's wireless networks or an engine or a mechanical system, you can find out anomalies. Are there any deviations from the regular, or if you're getting any input value spikes somewhere, which is an anomaly. Okay, so that can be detected with the help of machine learning. So it is also very much helpful in maintenance, or you can say predictive maintenance. I mean, I work in the area of predictive maintenance, and the student, Mr. Amit, which is assisting me in the course, is working in the same area. And then computer security, where you can find out if there are any hacking attempts, like some visitor is there on a website. So that visitor is a regular visitor or is a hacker, that could be detected. So how do we do machine learning? So let's say how. So the important goals. The first one would be to collect data. I mean, you start your machine learning journey with the data in hand. So as we progress in the course, we will be working on several different type of databases, which are some standard ones. So goals here would be to have good data. Now, what is a good data? Good data is one where there are less missing values. The the responses which you have been taken from reliable sources, then only the data is going to make sense. If you are going to ask about habits of teenagers and your respondents are in the late 20s, that your respondents belong to late 20s, then it is of no use. Okay, then get accurate annotations, like songs with accurate emotion tags might be hard to. Now this we are talking about song recommendation. So a certain genre of people would post something on the Twitter about certain song. So how do you analyze that? Now, if if it is annotated with the accurate emoji cons, you say, no, emoticons. So if they are correctly um, represented that or not. So if this kind of data you're handling, it could be very ambiguous, because um in writing it is much easier, but if there are only emoticons which you are your data contains emoticons, I mean, uh, you can say you have often given feedback, no, 1 2 3 4 5, and some emoticons are there. So if I am giving you and I made 5 emoticons and you have to give your response on that, probably that will be easy, because only 5 different emoticons are there. But if I tell you, give me one emoticon on the food which I've served, and now everyone may have a different kind of a mood, like um, you may understand that you and your friend may not give same emoticon for a given phrase or a given situation. Okay, so it becomes ambiguous. So choosing the data or extracting the data or capturing the data, it becomes a very critical aspect. If you are not capturing the quality of the data is not good, any machine learning algorithm in the world would not help your cause. Okay, so uh, let's say this is a kind of a annotations web app where some song is there, and there are different colors which will come out of it. So so I mean to say, this particular song belongs to, if you what category, like this song belongs to a happy category, glad category, delighted category, depending on the pitch of the song, I mean the frequency which plays across. Can you classify this song as largely, you can say, is it a soothing song, or if it's a song which excites you, or if it's a song which kind of a blue song where it brings down it mellows down you. So that kind of people work on these kind of problems, where if the song which you have listened just now, so I will ask you to classify this song in one of these. So depending on various frequencies which are played in the song, it will be classified after 2000 row entries. The 2001 row entry will be done by the machine learning algorithm, and it's going to classify the song in one of these categories. Then feature extraction is another. I think I did talk about it yesterday also, but again, feature extraction uh, is kind of a preliminary step before we after collecting the data. Now, I did tell you that yesterday, if you have to say, let's say, find out uh, what are the factors which affect my CGPA. So your CGPA could be affected by 150 factors, which is a very large. I mean, although I have exaggerated over here, but then just to make the situation more crisp. But even out of 150, I want to get only 30 factors. It's not that I know beforehand that I will be needing 30 factors, but let's say I want to reduce that 150 factors to 30 factors, the critical ones, or which actually are really responsible for. I did give you one example yesterday, that whether you come by foot or whether you come by a cycle or by a motorized vehicle, will that govern your CGPA or not? Okay, so is that a factor which should be taken as meaningful, and is that a factor which could be used for estimation of your CGPA? Yes or no? So this is a exercise of feature extraction, right? So features at times, or mostly in the most of the cases, they represent characteristics or the variables which affect our output variable, or which affect our whole problem. Okay, so but at times features can also be your performance measures of the algorithm. How your like standard deviation, mean square error, mean squared percentage deviation. All these are performance measures. So I could even use feature extraction techniques on that. So whatever I'm talking about right now, we will do everything. Then there is a term feature selection. So feature selection, feature extraction and feature selection, there are two different, they are very similar but they are different. So feature extraction is largely about extracting the relevant measures, but in the relevant measures also there could be redundancy. For example, uh, if the CGPA is governed by study hours, okay, amount of time you are devoting to your study, and another variable we create by mistake because so many variables are there. So another variable we create, study hours and time devoted to study, or time spent in the library. Okay, spent in the library could be different. So time devoted to study and time devoted to reading. Okay, now these two are sort of, so do you think they are redundant? Okay, give your opinion on this. Give your opinion in the window. Do you think, okay, I'll explain the meaning of redundant also. Redundant is like uh, more or less same or duplicated. Okay, so even if one is not there, the other will work. Like you have cylinders in your household. If you have 3 cylinder in your household, probably one is a redundant cylinder, LPG cylinder. So my question to all of you is, tell me if uh, in the feature extraction, removing the removal of your so feature selection and feature extraction. So feature extraction is getting the meaningful data or meaningful features, and feature selection is that removing the redundancies existing in the. So what did I ask you was time spent in studying and time spent in reading. Are they redundant or not? At least one of them should be redundant. So give your opinion here. So Pratik says that okay, they are not redundant. They should be exclusive. I mean, they are independent of each other, and both of them should be there. You mean to say that, Pratik? A student might be studying for exam in the library, so it should not be used as a study hours. Okay, so we now I hope you understand. Or have you understood the meaning of it? Type say yes if you understood the meaning, the difference between feature extraction and feature selection. Please write yes. Tina, yes. Syed says yes. Madhav says yes. Piyush. Okay. Manya. Yes. Everyone, yeah. I just want to see whether you are actually present, or also I mean you are just sitting here, or you've switched on your, just logged in and okay, so you are there listening. Good. Okay, so yes, you have understood. Thank you. Thank you for the response. Okay, so feature extraction and feature selection are the two different aspects of uh, machine learning. Okay, now after feature selection, the next step would be model learning. So next step is model learning. So how we do model learning? Some aspects of that I have discussed yesterday also, like there are several learning problems: classification, regression, association, and clustering, and different learning paradigms. So, learning problems and learning paradigms. Let's try to understand these two. Learning broadly, any problem in machine learning could be classified into these four: classification, regression, association, and clustering. So, classification, simple example could be your you have tomatoes, you have oranges, and you have lemons. Okay, and then we blindfold you, and you have to pick, or maybe we you don't know what is tomato, what is lemon, and what is orange. Okay, you just don't know. You can just by you'll touch it, and you can feel the texture. You can tell about the color. There are a few more characteristics which could be there without even having a taste of it. So if I like to classify, they are all in one basket. So I would like to classify them into three different this thing. So that could be done, three different classes. So that could be done with the help of classification. Then you have regression, which basically you regress. That means you predict, or generally it's like whether a certain person has got these health parameters. Your BMI is this, your weight is your height is this, weight is this, and your eating habits, you are a smoker or not. um, uh, are you a software, I mean, are you an IT worker? So many different parameters are there for health, or how many times you do health checkups in a year. At the end, you have to predict whether this person is prone to diabetes or not in coming 5 years or so, or in any at any point of time, whether he'll be prone to diabetes or not. So that could be regression. Or on the in the simple sense, demand is there, and you want to say, you want to predict what will be the demand. Okay, very simple terms, forecasting. So that is all regression. Then you have association, is like decision tree, which we have seen yesterday, where whether it's going to rain or not, or play or don't play. If these are the different values of the parameters, then association comes over there. And then you have clustering, like you have different uh, different type of customers, and they are giving feedbacks. So can we cluster those similar people together? Now there's a classification and clustering. There's a very minor difference between the two. If you have labeled variables with you, like if you label, okay, this is an orange, this is an lemon, and this is another thing. So if you are telling that, by keeping it, initially you are having training data set, so then we say it's a supervised one. And if you don't have even that, means you don't know, there are round things in front of you, you don't know the name of that also. Are you getting it? That, okay, these are three different round things, that's all. You don't know whether it is lemon, you don't know whether it's tomato or orange. Because past data is, history is not there, and you have not named it ever. It has never ever been named. Okay, so you can't do labeling then. If it has never ever been named, then you can't do labeling of it. So then that would be clustering. Okay, so again, clustering and classification, from bird's eye view, it might look same, but one is supervised and another is unsupervised. And then we have learning paradigms, like supervised, unsupervised, reinforcement learning. Supervised, as I have just explained you as well, that in supervised, it is labeled data. You know the output. You know that if I'm picking this thing, this is the orange. Okay. Unsupervised is where you don't have the labeled data, or I'll explain you more. Let's say you have what are the main emotions? How many emotions can be exhibited by human beings? Can you write in the chat window how many emotions can a human being exhibit? Anyone? 9. Okay. So I mean, but if we look at many, Raghav is saying many. So very simple thing could be, for every emoticon which you have in your WhatsApp, there, there is an human emotion associated with that. Now, although Raghav was right saying 9, so all these together, if you look at your just open your phone and just have a look at your WhatsApp your QWERTY pad, and there you would be able to see that what's what set of emoticons are there. I think there are around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In a row, there are eight in a row, and I could find at least 10 to 15 rows are there. So, okay, we take in ballpark, it would be around 80 to 120 emoticons are there. There may be more also, but then they all can be classified. They all can be put into one, like angry. So angry, how many emoticons can you find on your phone which exhibit angry? Okay, let's say, how many angry are there? How many angry emoticons are there on your 5? At least 4, 5. Similarly, happy, how many are there for happy? Happy, 7. Okay, so what I mean to say is, over there is, there are factor and there are items. So we can say every emoticon is an item, and a one factor happy is having 7 emoticons or 7 items. So your there is a this comes under supervisor learning, means I can reduce those 50 emoticons into 9. I mean, I can reduce those 120 emoticons into 9 major human expressions. Getting it? So that is again can be done with the help of principal component analysis, that is unsupervised learning. That's what Pratik is saying. Can we have factors under factors? So that's what it means. Principal component analysis. That means we find out what are the principal components which are defining those emotions. Getting it? So that can be done with the help of unsupervised learning algorithms. And then we have reinforcement learning, which takes us to artificial intelligence. Reinforcement learning is when your machine learning algorithms are associated with goals, or when your algorithms are associated with achieving certain goals. Okay, so I will talk about it at the end of the course. Reinforcement learning is generally associated with rewards, just like a human being. If you are designing a robot which can play football, so it has goals, like goal of a humanoid football player would be to have good coordination with the fellow robots. It should have maximize its chances of doing goals. Okay, if you simply say maximize the goals and you don't give coordinate with the other robots, probably it is going to fail. So that is reinforcement learning. Like you reinforce. What is reinforcement? You give some additional you can say additional incentive or additional advantage or penalty. Okay, if you associate your algorithm with that, then it becomes reinforcement learning. So largely the goal of a model learning is to tackle creating a good model from the data. So especially in in your supervised learning, you create training and the testing data sets, then compare different models, and then parameter tuning is so these are, you can say, some sort of steps. So first you create data set, training data set and the testing data set. Then after that you run the algorithm, then you compare different models. Different models could be different algorithms, you can have different algorithms, or you can have different variants of the same problem by changing the set parameters of a problem. You will understand the meaning of this as we start taking the algorithms. Then parameter tuning. So every algorithm, as I've said yesterday, that no algorithm gives 100% result, because there are some underlying parameters which needs to be tuned, and you need to do a lot of hit and trial. So machine learning is not a one-shot solution, but it's rather a hit and trial approach is there. So you try to optimize your hit and trial approach by doing your parameter tuning at appropriate places, right? Then after that, model learning, right? We're still talking about model learning. Then you have, I'll just give you some examples of learning algorithms. So in the classification, you have decision trees. I mean, association. You have. I think I told you that Bayesian. I mean, the decision trees are falling under classification, but if you are using Bayesian networks, okay, then it falls under wherever using probability and the Bayes theorem. I think all of you know Bayes theorem and you have read about it. So if you are using Bayes theorem, it comes under association. And at times, if your decision trees are associated with probabilities, then it may fall in association as well. Then you have support vector machines, k nearest. So in this course, we will be doing all these algorithms, which are FP growth we are not going to do, but then support vector machines will do, k nearest neighbors will do. Then linear regression, of course, logistic regression, of course, will do. And the clustering will do k-means clustering and principal component analysis. So whatever is listed over here, probably will not do everything, but we will do all type of algorithms, maybe more than one or two in every. So because there's no limit to, while we are talking right now, some new algorithm is getting developed. Okay, so there's no limit to the machine learning algorithms. There are plenty, but then basic algorithms which are prevalent, if you know basic four, if you understand these four different class of algorithms, okay, or different learning problems, you can, or all the four types, if you can handle, then you can handle any of these. So you'll be well equipped to handle any algorithm present in the world and able to understand it. So anyway, this we'll talk about it later. So model evaluation. So once you have trained and tested the model, then after that you evaluate the model. That is how the model is going to perform. And on the unseen data. Unseen data means initially, let's say you have 1,000 data points. Now of those 1,000 data points, you have taken 800 as the training data set, and you've taken remaining 200 as the testing data set. After that, you have to pick the data, or you are ready to go in the field as well and apply these algorithms on that data which you never had. Okay, and then we evaluate the model. So you can call it as a model validation also. So then we evaluate how model will perform or on the unseen data. So it will test the model's generalization capability. इसको एक particular set of data पे we have already applied it. Now, is it applicable on any data coming from that particular type of problem or not? So we have to evaluate that. So there are many types of evaluation matrices associated, like there is precision, recall, F measure, confusion matrices. We are all going to talk about each of these evaluation matrices in detail. Then if you are doing regression, you could have root mean squared error, R-square statistics. So again, these will all be talked in detail later on. Then you have model evaluation strategies, where if you are taking data, if you are using data, So either you're going to use all those 800 together to train the data, or you're going to break the data into 100 different bags, and then you're going to apply 100 on 100 at a time, or you're going to do random sampling with replacement. That is, I pick a sample randomly from 800, I make a bag of 800 and I replace them. I take out another sample and then I replace them. So there are different strategies, we call that. So that is k-fold cross validation and holdout methods. So both of these will be discussed in detail in the coming slides. So as I've told you over here, model evaluation, it is a kind of a confusion matrix. So I'm not going to explain you in detail about it, but for now it is something like uh, I have I have classified these are the total number of responses. Some of them I've classified like they were. Let's say the example is like medical data, uh, whether the disease is there or not. So positive means disease is there, or like say corona positive and corona negative. You say it. So we know that the tests which are done, RT-PCR test or the other test, they are not 100% accurate. So that means the person is not having corona and is tested negative again. So that is good. 415 people like that. While one person is there, how many people are there which test negative, but they are tested positive? They are 85. How many people are there who are actually positive but tested negative? So this is the dangerous group. 114 people. Okay, anywhere they go in the world, they'll be dangerous walking around. And then they are positive, and then tested positive is 154. So you can similar thing goes with the machine learning algorithms also. So whatever output you want to understand, has that output been properly interpreted or not, or the training data says that this should be positive, and in the testing data set also it is coming out as positive. So, and there are other measures like precision recall and F measure, which are derived from this small 2 by 2 matrix only. Okay, so this is about evaluation, and then so I'll I'll just brief the complete cycle. So machine learning starts with data collection, where you have to collect data properly. Quality of data is important. Then after that, can anyone tell what are the steps? Now let's see how many. Let me find out how many of you are actually listening. So can you briefly tell what are the steps in machine learning? I've told you broadly what are the steps. So let me see if you can write that. Everyone, yes. I'm waiting for your responses. Feature extraction, feature selection. Good, Pratik. Tell more. Data collection, feature selection, features. I think एक एक करके नहीं लिखें, आप एक साथ लिखिए पूरा. Because I will not be able to know के have you got all this complete sequence or not. तो पूरा टाइप करिए आप. Take a minute and type the complete thing. अब अंकित बोल रहे ओनली डेटा कलेक्शन थोड़ी है अंकित बेटा, आपको पूरा लिखना है. पूरा लिखिए. डेटा कलेक्शन के बाद क्या होता है, फिर क्या होता है, तो इन वन सेंटेंस ओनली यू टाइप इट. अब सबने अलग अलग बता दिया है, बट एवरीवन राइट इन वन सेंटेंस. Everyone, whether you know it or whether your person who has just already typed has tried even typed it right, you again type it. आप सब टाइप करेंगे and बताएंगे कि what are the steps in machine learning. Everyone. Meanwhile, I'm sending the attendance link. I've sent the attendance link, but yeah, now Piyush is saying, okay, I can scroll through these. Good. Now I'm getting responses. Okay, Piyush is saying collect data, analyze the data, answering questions based on developing algorithm, data collection, feature selection, feature extraction, model learning, selecting learning paradigm, model evaluation. Okay, data collection, feature extraction. I think many people are getting it correct. Mahi says data collection, feature, learning. See, learning paradigm is actually not a step. It says model learning. You can write there. So data collection, data selection, data wrangling. So he has added. Okay, I did not talk about that. Good. Sayed has added few things. Okay, good. So I'm happy that you people are listening. Now, let me again give a brief summary of it. So first we collect the data. After collecting the data, there is one step I forgot to tell, which was data engineering or feature engineering, where we find out whether we correct the data. There could be many problems with the data. We correct the data. What problems will be there in the data, we will talk about in the coming lectures. So data collection, then feature engineering, you can say, then feature extraction and feature selection, both are part of your feature engineering only. Then after that we do model learning, and after model learning we will do model evaluation. So after model evaluation, then we are good to go. If everything's, all the matrices are fine, then we are good to go. So these are main aspects of or you can say main steps of machine learning broadly. Okay, so machine learning, basically, as I've told you, it's not something new. Um 1956, there was a report, an inductive inference machine by Ray Solomonoff. So this guy, although he's no more, but 1956 is considered to be a kind of a um landmark where we say it's the considered to be the starting point of machine learning. Then in chess playing, Arthur Samuel was there. So again, in mid between 1950s and 1970s, they were working on some algorithms where they could be used for playing chess and predicting the moves of the player. So now we have already talked about a lot about the applications, ML applications. But then what we've talked about is in brief. I mean, I've given you brief applications about each. Now let's take one single application like credit card decisions, whether this certain person should be given credit card or not. Okay, so I'll share my screen. You see here whether a person should be given credit card or not. This kind of algorithm was there in 1995 by Langley and Simon. So in business, the application is somewhat like this: credit rating, indebtedness, and years in the current job. So there are three main parameters which are considered to pass on a credit card to a certain person or not. Okay. So in this particular problem, how in the data collection phase, what will happen? The step one, questionnaire about people applying for credit card. There will be a questionnaire which will be asking people all these parameters, about all these parameters. So that's how you're going to collect the data. Then initial methodology would be how do we how do we select the application. So for that purpose, the statistical method, they use statistical method. So there is one type of machine learning, which is statistical machine learning as well. There where they use statistical methods. That's more than enough, we can say. So they use discriminant analysis, which help them in rejecting applications which fall below a certain threshold. Okay. So with the help of discriminant analysis, they could reach a value of, let's say, 15 of a certain value. Okay, using discriminant analysis, they reached a certain value, and only 10 to 15% people were getting that. And it was found that the accuracy was was very high, and only in some cases it was found that this was erroneous. So this is one application where we can say the ML was applied in business. Then, of course, I think we've already talked about entertainment part, and then after that we have medicine. So let me take that part. So in medicine, like, it can be used in heart murmur classification. So heart has a certain frequency, right? It beats with certain frequency, and at times the beats can get irregular. So a person who's lying like this is in a very steady state, and if his heart is not giving a frequency of a person who's normal, I mean, how would you classify murmur? Because heart murmur, different type, there are types of heart murmurs, so every type is going to represent a different kind of heart disease, so you have to classify that murmur. Okay, so this can be done with the help of machine learning, where heart sound were recorded from 15 healthy subjects and 51 subjects with several types of murmurs from in a Portugal university. And the stethoscope, electronic stethoscope, was used for this purpose, and the sound samples were annotated, means this particular sound sample by expert is, he'll label it, he's labeling it, this is a heart murmur and representing this disease. So of all those different subjects, the number of samples which were taken, each was marked, or you can say annotated, by the health expert. And several in the feature extraction, what features were observed, like ZCR, transition ratio, spectral features, chaos, all these are medical terms. So they were observed and the values were written over there. Then they applied different classification models, like they used support vector machines, and they classified 7 different classes of heart murmurs. And when they evaluated it, the matrices were found to be very encouraging. So similarly, many other applications are there. I'll share the slides and you can go through these slides later on. Now from tomorrow, we are going to start with basic. I mean, we are now starting to go in the water. Okay. Right now, I've till in the yesterday and today's lecture, I've shown you the water from far away. Now, from tomorrow, we are starting to put our foot in the water. Okay. So, Amit, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you can take from here.
Yes, sir. Okay, so yesterday we started from here, right? From printing function, some arithmetic operators, and then we move on to converting the data types from float to integer, string to integer, and integer to float, right? So these were the things that we learned yesterday. So for today, we'll start with some commands that are important in terms of whenever you are working with some date time concepts, right? So first, there is one liner command for comments, right? So whenever you want to put something in between your code to make it more explainable for you or other guys who are working on the same code, or maybe it's for just a reference, right? So whenever you want to put something, some note in your code, then you can just type it after the hashtag sign, right? And then there is one more thing in Jupyter Notebook that you can use. So that will be a markdown, right? So whenever you are running something, right, some code, then it will be under the label of code. If you want something to be written as a reference, or you want to put it as a comment, right, so then you can select the cell and then go to this top down menu and select on markdown, right? So this won't be run right as your code. It will be a simple thing. You can change the font by adding few more hashtags, right? So this is how you change the font of your comments. Okay. Now the next thing, that is how to we'll be working with some data type that will require us to identify or specify for the system that which type of data type we are using in here. So for that type, you have to specify the data types, right? So earlier we used the integer, float. These are the data types that we need to specify. Similar way, there is one another data type, that is date time, right? So you need to specify whenever you are using date or time in your Python code, so that you can do with date time and date library, right? So from date time library, you have to import the date. So these are all the you can say that date time is a larger library in which there is one function is specified that is under the name of date, right? So from date time we are importing. We'll see in detail what why do we need to do these things, right? So if we do a quick review on this, then whenever you want to do something mathematical, right? That is, say you want to calculate the square root of something, right? A number, let's say there is 1996. You want to execute this square root of 1996. So you can either write a code that will do some mathematical operation, right, and then the square root will be there, but or you can use already existing functions that are under the that are under the libraries that are provided by the Python software, right? So there are Python is an open source software, so you can generate your own library under it, right? And users can use it if they find it more comfortable and convenient for their use. So similar way, someone may have written a code or a function under a library or built in library, and from that library we are directly using the functions, right? So we don't need to go into the hassle of writing each and every line of the code or each and every step of the algorithm. So that is for our benefit that we use these kind of libraries. So for importing the libraries from from the set of libraries, so that you can do from this command, right? From datetime library you are importing a date function, right? So
Amit,
under that,
just give them a bit of introduction about library. What is the meaning of library?
sir, we can cover it in future lectures
Okay,
because we are not
okay,
focusing here, right? So
okay,
we'll give it a discussion,
okay,
right? For
okay.
now we'll just focus on simple thing. that how and how can we use the date and date time functions in here. Okay. Okay. Say you want to use you have defined here or assigned this year, month, and date. So that you can do with my date. So my date is your variable. You are assigning a value of 1996, 12, and 11, but that is a date in date format. So you are specifying the value in date format through the date command, right? So that will convert. So it has been specified to the system that whatever value I have written here, it is in a date format. So the system will understand how to process it for further steps, right? So let's say we have assigned the value in my date here, then we'll print it out. Okay, so okay, so one thing we need to learn here, that is whenever you want to print something, either you can write it in inverted commas, right? So this will be printed out at exactly as you have written in here. Whatever you have written in parenthesis, that will be printed out exactly as the values or entry you have done in here between the parentheses. Okay, but there will be many times that you need to call the variable to, right? So let's say you have defined a variable, so you have written a code of like 20 to 30 lines, and you want to just print the output of that code, right? So what you will do, that you will write that my output is, and then call the variable. So what we are doing in here, that first we are typing the let's say we want to print it out to make it more explainable, right? So what my variable or what my output that has been called in here represents, right? So the date passed as argument is my date. So the variable is just the date that you have uh, passed as or assigned to the my date variable. So that is written in here. Then the format you have to remember, right? That you can do here. That just put an comma and the variable name. You have to write the variable name exactly as it is defined in here, right? So that will give you a date passed as argument is, and then whatever the date is here, right? So it won't be a numeric value, it will be in a date format, date time format. Okay, so whenever you have to define or specify that the particular value is in date format, first you need to import the library, and then uh, do right, specify the format, right? So if you don't call this library or import the functions from that library, then you won't be able to run the command, right? So that you have to remember, first import the library and then do the functions that are written in that library. Okay, now the second thing, first you have to import from date time, import date. Now let's say you want to call whatever date is today, right? So that will be like say we are doing it today, so the date will be date dot today, that is, and we are printing it out. So whatever date is today is 25 August 2021, so that is our date. Now let's say you want to print out the components of the date. So what are the components of a date? You will say that year might be a component, then month will be a component, and then day will be your component of today's date, right? Let's say you have to specify date and time together, right? So whatever date time is today, so there will be more three uh, components in that. So first will be your year, what year is this, what month is this, then what day is today, then what hour we are performing the code, then what minute we are in, and what second is there. Now for that, first we have call the date only in here, and then the components of the date. So first component, you may specify it a little differently. Okay, so you'll see that so the components are written in particular order, right? So year will be in here, the second one will call for your month, and the third one will call for your date. Now, as we discussed earlier, we can call the time also from in here. So there are first call the library, then date time dot now. So this thing you have to just focus on, right? Whenever you are calling for a date, then you have to type it as date dot today, and if you are calling for time also, then it will be date time dot now, right? Whenever you are calling for time, then it will be your dot now, and for day it is dot today. Okay, if we run this, so you'll see that today is 21st century, 8th month, August 25th date, then 19th hour, 37th minute, and 42nd second, right? And this is the microsecond. So for microsecond, you can call it from here. In a similar way, you can do this thing, but you will do that for today dot time, right? We can write it here. Okay, so for today, what is the minute right now? So that is 38th minute, right? We can change it over here. Okay, so there is another format for calling the values or combining the strings, concatenating the string and the variable value. So you can put a plus sign, but for that you have to remember that whenever you are putting a plus sign before calling the variable name, so you have to convert it into string first, because the format for concatenating the two strings, that is plus. So whenever there are two strings, then and then only you can concatenate or combine it with plus sign. So you have to convert the variable into a string data type, right? Okay. Next, we'll see that let's suppose you are doing some calculation and you want to count the days, and say you have to calculate the difference between months data. Say you are predicting weather, right? So your weather will be running in your cycle of 365 days. So say you want to compare last 5 years of data on the for a similar on a same day, right? Say you want to compare the temperature and wind speed for 1st of August, right? So there will be, say you have data of last 5 years, so there will be 1st of August in last 5 years. So you will see, and you'll see that first you will extract the data from that, and then you will compare the data by the period of 365 days, right? If we take a general case, not exactly, but 36 after each 365 days there will be 1st of August. So you will go backwards from today to minus 365 days, and then you will get the 1st August of 2020, right? So for this kind of calculation, you need to go in cycles backwards or forward, right, as per your data characteristics. Okay, so for that, again, you need to call the function from the library of date time. First, you'll need the date function, because it will call for your today's date, and then you need to use the time delta function for the difference between the days, right? Okay, so first we'll call the day, what day is today. For that, we'll need the date dot today function. Then one day. So we are what we are the difference we are taking here is for one day. So time delta will be your days equal to 1. Okay. Okay. So what we are doing here, we are going backwards by one day. For the previous example, we were going for 365 days. Similar way, in here we are going backward by 1 day. So it is assigned, this the value has been assigned in here as a 1 day variable, okay, to the 1 day variable. So yesterday will be today minus 1 day, so that is your function in here, and it will be written here. Okay. If we run this, you'll see that today is 25th of August and yesterday will be your 24th of August. Let's say we go by 365 days, that will be your year, right? So that will be 25th of August 2020, right? In similar way, you can do the calculation for days. If you don't want to go by the days, you can go with weeks. Let's say you are making some comparison on the weekly basis, right? Say what changes on weekly basis. Say suppose
Amit, we can
it-
slow down a bit over here. Let them show this one. Give them a bit small variation in this problem and let them do
yes,
it and show it in the
yes,
what
sir.
they'll send us snap of the document.
Okay, so take an example. Let's say uh, you want to say you want to call for the values that were before uh, before 1 day exactly. It's, no, not for 1 day. So we have to take an example here. Then okay, take this example. Call today's date and time, and then uh, extract the or output your microsecond. Right? Everybody can do this. Extract your microsecond and month of today.
So we'll give you some 3-4 minutes. Do it on your system and then send a snapshot of it on the WhatsApp group.
Everybody got it? What I am trying to say?
Yeah, Amit, you can show that on your screen also so that they can copy it. They
Okay,
can
so I'll
look at it and
show the
copy.
code here.
You can write your question in the chat box, Amit.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can do that. How many if you are doing, say yes if you are doing it. there anyone who's finding it difficult to do it? You can raise your hand and ask. We will resume the lecture after 1 minute. So by that time, everyone should send whatever you have done. Maybe you've written half written code or full written code, whatever. Okay, we'll be resuming now. Send screenshots of your Jupyter screen on WhatsApp group. Amit, you may start now.
Yes, sir. Okay, so okay, we went back to 1 day, 365 days. Then we can go by weeks also. So similar way, we have written here days equal to 365. We can write weeks is equal to 1, 2, 3, whatever in number of weeks you want to go back, and then plus or minus, right? Okay. Okay then. So this is a more detailed code for your hour, minute, second, the same way, date time dot now. Okay. Now let's see. Okay. Uh, we'll see one another command, that is your strp time, right? That will give you date string and format. So you can change the format of your date that you are calling from, right? Say here a variable has been assigned the value of 21st June 2018, and you want to convert it into a format of date, month, and year, right? So you can specify the function, sorry, format of your date time in here, and otherwise the rest of the thing, this is the command, right? From date time function, we are calling this strp time command, and then the variable name, and then the format in which you want to uh, format the your variable value, right? So that you can do from this strp time function or command. Okay. We are storing it is an, okay, first we'll run this. You will see that first date string, this was the input that we have called from, or we have assigned to the variable, so that will be printed as date string in here, 21st June 2018. Then we have transformed the format into day, then your month, and then year, right? You'll see that the dd, b, y, m for month. Okay, first we can go here. Okay, so you'll see that first. Okay, now The first A is abbreviated for weekday. Say you want to abbreviated form of what day today is, Sunday, Monday, in that way, and then in the full form of your weekday name, right? So that is Sunday, Monday. In here you will get an abbreviated name, that is Sun, MON, then for Tuesday TUE, in that way. Then for weekdays, decimal number, that is Sunday will be your 0th day, first day will be Monday until 6th, right? Similar way, you'll see that for month of day of the month in zero decimal value, that will be your 01. Okay, you'll see that zero padded decimal will give you 0, 02, 03, 04 up to 10, and then it will go on regular fashion. But if you put a hyphen in between percentage and D, then it will be a decimal number. But it will be same, just you'll see that the 0 will be gone, right? So that's the only difference in here. So this will be your two digit number all the way, and this will be a single and double digit numbers. Now for B, as we discussed, the B will be for your month. Small b will be for your month name in a abbreviated format, and that is January, February up till December, and capital B will be your full forms, right? Full form in full name of a month, right? January, February, and that way. Then percentage M will give you the month similar to the day in a zero padded decimal format, that will be 0, 1, 2 up to 12. Hyphen M will be your 1, 2, 3 up to 12. Okay. Then Y will be for your year, but that will be with zero padded decimal number. Hyphen Y will be with only decimal number, last two digits, right, without the century. So just remember this, and we'll see that how it will work. Just you have to keep in mind what represents what, right? And capital Y will give you the full name of your year, right? So this is the way of the format. Right now in here we'll see that we okay, if we just change a bit in here, so we had the format is matching, right? So first one is your date, the second one is your month, mm, month name, and the third one is your year, right? Let's say I change in here, I want to call for number of month, right? There will be, for June it will be 6, right? If we run this, you will see that there will be an value error, right? Time data June does not match format, right? So the format is day, month, and year, but you will see that the day name, day, month, and year name are here. Can you tell me what is the difference here between the format and the output? Sorry, input. Some Pratik, comma, but where? Okay, this comma. Okay, right. So I have removed the comma till it is showing me an value error. That does time data does not match the format, right? Anybody? Any guesses? This was our input, and this is the format. Okay, no comments are there. Anybody? Any wild guesses?
I think
Comma in
Prateek
input.
and Nilesh, they are having some.
Okay. No, but you'll see that this, this is in between the inverted commas, right? So whatever you write in this thing, it will be okay. Even if I remove this, there will be an error. Okay. Okay, we'll see that what the comma was, why the comma was confusing you. We'll see that. But you see, year is matching with year, month is matching with month, and day is matching with day. But there is a minor difference. Okay, no, nobody. Okay, then if we go in here, so what we had written in here earlier when it was doing just fine. Okay, and the comma and this comma. Okay. Okay, you'll see that percentage D, percentage B, and percentage Y. So we'll see that what this format represent. Where did it go? Okay, this one. So percentage D was for day of the month as a zero padded decimal. So our day will be in 0, 1, 2 up to 31. So if we go in here, okay, so this was the thing. Okay, if we go in here, you'll see that the 21 is right, right. The percentage D is having the 21, 0, 1, 0, 2 up to 31. So the value is within the limits, right? So that's a correct thing. There is no problem. Now you'll see percentage B in here, we have written it as June. Okay, so if we go in here, percentage B, capital B, that will be full month name, right? So your entries should be January, February, March, April, May, up to December in full name format, right? So we have written the June as full format, right? So it's correct thing. And in here, percentage Y, that is 2018. Percentage capital Y shows the all the year name with century. So that is also the correct thing. But when we changed it to percentage M, right, it was showing us some error, right? The format is not matching. So for in format value, if we see that percentage M and in here the June is written, right? So if we go to this format, you will see that for percentage M, that is month as zero padded decimal number, right? So your value should have been 0 and 02 up to 12. If your values are not of this set, then there will be an value error, right? So what our error was, we had written in format, we had written percentage M in the format, and our input value was of percentage B format, right? So January, February, and June was in here. So the format difference was here. Now, if I want to print percentage M, my date, I want to print it out as percentage D, percentage M, and percentage Y format, then what we can do, we can change the input as 12, right? So 12 is within the limit for percentage M. So if we run this, we'll say it runs perfectly fine, right? Now, everybody's clear up till this, right? Format is clear for everybody.
Yeah. So what we mean to say is not to teach you how to write a date, but then how sensitive is Python to all these formats. That is
Yes.
what is the takeaway of this. So you should be careful about these formats. These are openly available.
Yes. So, as far as the Python and format and syntax goes, you cannot put a variable by small letters and put a capital letter also, right? Even if there is single capital in between these, then the variable will not be found in the system, right?
So I
So,
think we should tell them also about the space between the variable which we are defining, like data and space string will not work. And underscore before and after, what is the placement of underscore also you can tell about.
okay, right. Here we have printed out the data underscore string, right? So if we call here, whenever you want to call a variable, just type the name, right? So you have written the date string, so that has been defined in here. So it will give us a value, right? 21. So one more thing to clear in here, that whenever you are writing something in Python and assigning values to a variable, let's say I have written, okay, for that I can new thing. Let's say I have assigned one to a variable. and I'm calling it as 1, right? So value is 1, right? Now let's say in the latest file, p is given as 245, okay? And if I run it, once it has been run, now the value has been shifted to 245. So a will be having a new value, right? If I run below this, you'll see the a is 245, right? Even if I run this one, so you'll see that a has been assigned a value of 245. So whenever there are multiple values assigned to a single variable separately, right? So you have to keep in mind that the latest value will be in store, right? So you will see that date string in this cell output was 21st June 2018, but now once we had run this code, so it is date string 21/12, 2018. So the latest value has been given to you, right? So this was it. And okay, so the thing that we, okay, let's say you are typing something like this, right? Say you are calling date space string, right? So both these things, both these variable names look similar to, but you will see that there is invalid syntax, or let's say I'm putting underscore and then capital S. Now the variable names characters are all same, just one variable is changed here. So you'll see if I run it, so there is no variable name date underscore capital S string is defined here, right? For the system, this is a new variable. So you have to be careful in letters, right? Whatever variable names you define, you have to be careful there. Okay. Okay, there was some confusion about this comma, right? Let's say, so what will happen is I'm changing the format in here, right, and changing it in here, similar to your output. So now your you'll see the difference in here, right? So this was our earlier code, and this is the latest one. So we have changed the comma and spaces with the hyphen in here, and the format is changed. So our data will be, so our output will also be changed, right? Now, okay. So all of you understood what the format and format in here and your input signifies, right? So you have this format should match whenever you are calling for days, and in other commands too. The things, the syntax and format should match with your input. Okay. Anybody has doubt in this? Anybody? There is one assignment also at the end of this session that you have to solve, right? So it will be solely based on this. So if you have any doubt, please raise your hand or comment. We can move forward. Okay, so we can move forward. Okay, in here the same thing is here, but we have written the date and time also. So date format is this and time format is this. That should match in here. Okay, so H for hour, M for minute, and S for second. Right. So that will give you. Okay, I have not printed out. right? This was the extensions and format. Okay, let's say we can use the input command in here that we had learned yesterday. Okay. So input, when is your birthday, then strip time, convert into format of your like, right? Same way in here, the format is changed. Say we have written in here that first value that we have input in here. So you have to specify one thing. You have to keep in mind that whenever you are calling for an input, you need to specify some things or order of your input that you are expecting the user to input, right? So in here you'll see that I'm asking the user to insert his birthday in this format. So first two digits will be your date, second two digits will be your month, and second last three digits will be your year, right? I can specify the year as four digits also, so the user will put it in with the century number, right? In here the day is for date is first, then in here date is first, month is first. Okay, you can change it in this way also. Let's say you are changing it to month and month, day, and then year. That you can change here also. Let's say you had asked the user to input your date of month first, and then the day of the month, and then year of the birth date, right? Okay, so ask in here. So have inserted the value as per the format that was expected to put. Okay, so 2 is my date, 12 is month, and then 90 is second last digit of the year. If I enter in here, so you'll see that the date has been converted into the format that you have written, right? So date is given in here, then month is given, and then year, right? So your year has been converted into 1990, right? You had asked the user to only insert the last two digits of the year, and the system has converted into 1990. Okay, so you need to specify if you are going for 18th century also, something you are calling from the user, or specific user is giving you the value that is in 18th century, 19th century, then you need to give the all the four digits of your year, right?
So I would like to tell one thing that whatever program we are doing over here, it does not necessarily mean that it is right now related with machine learning, but the understanding which you are going to gain while working on this program will help you in understanding the machine learning algorithms which we'll be doing later on. So everyone should be participative. It's just not for watching on the screen. You have to use your laptops while you are going through this. So I highly recommend that you all do all these things. Eventually, when we'll talk about algorithms, uh, they'll be larger in size, and there'll be many such syntaxes and all those things will be used. So in order to understand, you have to be well versed with whatever we are doing over here. So we are getting a foundation ready. Yeah.
You'll see that these are the few minor things, but when there will be data in front of you, you will be there will be a lot of confusion, right? So what data type of variable is there in that table, right? And you need to be clear about the data types also. So this is not a light thing. Okay, so we'll go for, okay, the user need to insert the date. So first month first, then date, and then year into four digits. You will see that the format has been changed, month. So you have specified that the first value that my user will give in here, that will be my month. The second value that user will give, that will be your day, and last value that will be your year. So the system has understood that and converted the values into your given format, right? So month has been changed, right? You will see that first year is there, then the month is here, and then day is here. So we had written it, though it is simple in here, but you'll see that month is here given as 09. So it should have been in the third place, but you'll see that we have specified the format. That is why the system has understood that thing and converted into yeah. Okay, Sayed is saying that it is difficult to understand and code at
I've
the
already
same
already
time.
taken care. You continue on.
Okay, so user has asked for the day. User is giving the date, and you are transforming into your format, right? So that is how the format is important there. Now you will see that what is your okay. So the this command is put in here so that you can work on your function or your assignment, right? So whenever you are asking for an input from the user, that will be definitely in the string format, and whenever you want to combine two strings, so that you can do with plus sign, as we have discussed earlier. So put first value, that is in inverted commas, so that will be a string. Then the second value, that will be a first name. So the first name is assigned value via the input function, so that will be also a string, so no need to change the data type in here. Otherwise, say there is one variable that has been computed through the numerical value, so it will be definitely a numerical value. So if you combine it with the string, then you need to convert that variable into string via the str function, right? So that we have seen in the earlier few lines or commands. Now the variable is name is given here, and then dot capitalize. So what will happen here, dot capitalize will give you a first letter as an uppercase or capital letter, and the rest will be a lowercase smaller letters, right? Then plus sign. Okay, so first string this one, second string the value that will be input by the user, then the third string, that is a space in between, then this slash is given so that the system, it just specified that the whatever written below is a symbol, it's a single line, right? So print slash, and then this one, it is a single line command, right? So if you see that, if I put a hyphen in here, so computer will understand that this one is a single line, right? So this will be helpful when you want to print something and the length of that command is very long. Then you can specify this inverted hyphen slash and write your codes in the second line, so that it is easy to interpret and easy to understand, right? The same way in here, last name variable has been capitalized through dot capitalize command. Okay, now it will ask me for my first name. Okay, then so you will see that I have written the first name as capital J, so that has been already capitalized. And the second thing, you will see that I have typed as with small j, right? But that has been converted into capital J in the second place, right? So the dot capitalize will Jupiter and capitalize the first letter, and the rest will be your lowercase letters. So you will see that a space, either you can add a space via the inverted commas, put a space between the inverted commas, or you can use that, say you had written something in here and put multiple spaces before ending the inverted commas, right? So this one thing you can do, whatever you are comfortable with. Right, so the spaces are here, are changed according to this. No. Um, Okay, I had written defined a function here. We'll see this later on, that how we are defining a function and how what output we'll get from that function. But for now, understand that you have used this um, function, right? And on the basis of that, you need to calculate the age of the user, right? So first you will ask the user the name of your two friends and then their birth dates. Now when you are calling for your for names of your friends, right, from the user, you need to capitalize their names via this capitalize command. Put their birth dates in a single line. Say we had written it earlier, right? So say you are asking your friend that his name is Sayed, right? Sayed, then his birth date will be combined with that name, right? And output will be who is younger. You had asked two of your friends their birth dates, right? And you give your output that who is younger of both. Got it? This one is exercise for you. You can start working on it right now. Okay. And if somewhat is left, then you can submit it tomorrow. We can discuss this problem tomorrow also. Okay. Anybody has problem in the understanding that what I'm asking you to do? Only Sayed understood. Rest of the 30 people, 29 people. You need to use this function, right, to calculate their ages from the date of birth and today's date. Okay. Ask your friends, any two users, for their name and birth dates. Calculate your friend's age as per this function, and then use. And then you need to identify who is younger. Okay, we can go to the screen of different participants. We
I
can.
think all of you should respond. Otherwise, we would not know whether you are getting it or not. And don't just sit there, just logged in and for the sake of it. It will be of no use. There are no grades associated with this course. So you have to be there. Yeah.
Mayank Solanki, you can share your screen right now. Is it allowed, sir, for them to share their screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so Mayank Solanki.
I have not attended yesterday's class, so I have not installed
But it is
Jupyter.
not okay.
So I think you should recap. We'll upload the video and you recap. So I
Yes,
think
sir.
you people should be there.
Vinit
So,
Taparia.
Sir, is it
Yes.
possible to share the code file?
Yes, yes. But you see that first 2 or 3 lines will be your input command, right? But if you have understood it, you can do it on your own. For now,
Sir,
just
can
take a
you repeat the
screenshot.
question once again?
You can just take a screenshot of this, because I see that many of the students or participants are just sitting idle there. So we need to make a check on them. Right? Take a screenshot of this. Okay, many of done, right? And this one also 76th. So you know how to input your name of your friends and their birth dates. Done. Take the second screenshot of this screen. Okay. Okay, I'm stopping the presentation and we can see. Okay. Aditi
We can do some
Mahesh.
one-to-one interaction in, let's say, 5 minutes.
Aditi
So,
Mahesh.
Himanshu, you are there? Himanshu?
Okay. Participants are leaving the chat.
Kalyani, you are there? He's also not gone now. Piyush, you are there?
Sir, I think we need to get another attendance in the last 10 minutes.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So, if you don't have any question, we'll conclude the day.